Hello YouTube. Welcome back. This is BalorMage again, and today we're going to go over both my MF character and my MF strategy. You're going to see in the background some double delirium maps being run with our friend Tom from a previous video, which is absolutely amazing, and we have changed characters to use this into a Kinetic Blast wanding build. So the entire idea of this character is just to put on as much increased item quantity and item rarity as we can, using the Tawm Chest to get all of our stuff ID'd, and then running double beyond delirious tier 16s solo. Now, this character from head to toe probably only cost me about 50x, but that is when the chest was 1x. The chest is now quite often 20, so we're probably looking at 70x to build the character ish, which is a little on the steep side, but it is worth noting that I'm pulling out 200 to 500 chaos per map in items to sell, so definitely worth it. So how do we run this map? Let's start with that. First of all, I will go through sextants. We are using area contains Alva. You can use something else if you've got Alva missions, but honestly, you run out of Alva missions so fast. We need area contains Alva. Slaying enemies gives Beyond as a sextant. Unique monsters drop corrupted items. That's where all of our 6 links are coming. That covers half of the profit that we make is just in 6 links. So they're great. And I'm using what I'm going to call the wildcard sextant. I happen to be using Harbingers. But you can put almost anything in the last slot. So it can be Harbingers, Abyss, Breach, a whole bunch of other things. I personally go with Harbingers purely because I like the Harbinger mechanic. It just is fun to me and I enjoy it. I don't necessarily think Harbinger is the best choice from like a what's the best profit margin sort of thing. But those are the sections that I'm using. We are also using single delirium orbed beyond rolled tier 16 maps. So that means I alk scour all of my maps until they hit beyond, and then I put 1 delirium orb on it. Luckily, this build can handle every single map mod. There is not a map mod I can't do, so I don't have to read them. I just have to find beyond. I just have to get beyond. That's it. So it's been really fun. I'm going to keep min-maxing this character, but let's jump in game and show you what's up with the character. Right. So here is my character. Now, these are all the maps that I've just pre-rolled, ready to run. Some sextants. I've got some more sextants put away, but that's not the important part. The important part is what's going on here. I've got an animate guardian. We'll get to that. First, if you wanted to make this build, a lot of it, pretty standard practice for MFing builds. We're going to be using the Gold Run Boots. We're going to be using Elemental Weakness, Sedima's Touch. We've got 2 Ventus Gambles on, and we have some quantity on an amulet. This is a pretty temporary amulet. I would like to get some really juicy rarity rolls on it as well. That'd be great, but quantity it is. Quantity on everything. So the only things that we've got room to experiment with is our helmet, shield, and weapon. So weapon is pretty simple. This is as simple as it gets. Takes a little bit of time, not too expensive. Very expensive if you try and buy it outright. Really simple. You grab the 3 types of essences and you just recombine wands over and over again. The best way to do this, at least in my opinion, is you try and get 2 wands that have 2. So you put, lightning and cold on a wand each, mix them together. Now you've got a lightning and cold wand. And then you put a fire and a cold on another wand and mix them together. Now you've got 4 prefixes, which you only need to keep 3 of, and you combine those 2 doubles to make an extra one. Now we only care about prefixes in that stage. As soon as you get 3 essence rolls, you're done with prefixes. If you have an empty suffix, you can do very easily, prefixes can't be changed, Veiled Chaos Orb, and look for anything good. Attack speed, crit, double damage, crit multi when a unique is nearby, anything like that. And then you want to be able to craft attack speed if you didn't unveil it, or craft double damage if you unveiled attack speed. That's it. I happen to have an extra suffix, so I threw a Redeemer Orb on mine and got Onslaught. That was great, but you definitely don't need it. If I didn't have Onslaught, I would just replace the Quartz Flask with an Onslaught Flask, and on my one dual socket that I have available to me, I would have got chance for phasing, so that I still had phasing. Wouldn't have been a big difference whether I had Onslaught on the weapon or not. It just means things are slightly different. Shield, we made ourselves. Almost the same process. I bought tier 1 suppressions, and tier 1 socketed gems have 30% IRMR, and just smashed them together with recombinators over and over again until I hit one. And then suffixes couldn't be changed. Veiled Chaos Orb, that hit my cold and lightning damage roll. And then I had to decide whether I wanted to craft life on it or craft more damage and just slam. So I ended up crafting mana on mine and then using an Exalt to slam life on. I got life, not very much of it. And because of that, I got to do an extra damage roll, but that extra damage roll isn't that important. Not at all. So crafted life there would have been fine. And unfortunately, the helmet, probably the hardest part. If you want to use an Animate Guardian, like I'm using, these are hard to find. It'll get a lot easier if you go for less of an int roll or just don't need an int roll. And it'll get a lot easier if you don't put rarity on it. But I really wanted a rarity roll, so frankly, these are just bought. I don't know how you would go about crafting these. These are insanely hard to get. Getting them without the +3 minions, super easy. Getting it with the +3 minions, super hard. So why are we using a minion and why isn't it die? So sorry buddy, our Animate Guardian does not die, and the only buff he's giving us is the Kingmaker. Fortunately, the Kingmaker is absolutely fantastic. Kingmaker, here we. So Kingmaker gives me a lot of things. Specifically, nearby allies have Culling Strike is amazing, and then 30 item rarity is also amazing, and then 50 crit multi is also amazing, and then a 10 stack of Fortify, so we just take 10% reduced damage or less damage. So that's super good, but then we have to keep him alive. Keeping him alive is rough. So to start with, he gets his own dedicated +3 4-link. He gets a Divergent Animate Guardian because that gives him an extra 40% increased minion life. So that's great. We then get Meat Shield, minion life, and elemental army support. Then to keep him alive, we looked for a pair of boots that had all the remaining resistances we got. Now remember that our elemental army support is giving us 31%, and he starts with 40% elemental and 20% chaos. So we looked for a boots that would just fix up our elemental res and give us as much chaos as we could, and they were just a rare pair of boots, and they just went on. Southbound gloves for more life, and then I used a corrupted helmet. Any helmet will do, but a corrupted helmet that has any amount of chaos res to cap him up. I only needed 13, and then the corrupted implicit of, I think it's 1.5 to 2% of life regenerated per second. So that's really important, because while 1.5 to 2% life per second doesn't sound like a lot, he's got 40,000 max health to begin with, and that's before we've put gear and southbounds and stuff on him. So, 2% of that, quite a lot. We have Convocate on left click, duration 2.4 seconds, which is quite useful, and only a 2.5 second cooldown. So that cooldown starts immediately. So this is almost up 100% of the time. So he just always is near me, always is in my auras, and always has this additional 1.7%. And then he has the Maven chest whose name just completely escapes me, and I've been dancing around it to try and avoid saying the name until my brain could remember the name of the chest. Hopefully our editor puts it on the screen there, because I'm an idiot and I can't remember its name. But the important part is that it does 40% less chaos and physical damage taken, and anytime he gets hit, 10% regen over 1 second. So all of those things put together keep him alive even in a non-minion build with absolutely no minion passives at all, nothing anointed, just the stuff. It did cost us a 4-link, and it isn't mandatory, but it is a lot of power. You can definitely start this build without it, and that will be the way most people will have to start, because these helms are pretty hard to come by. But as soon as you get rid of the +3 to minion gems, suddenly you can get a helm like this. You can get a helm with rarity and suppression and int and the stat you need. The kinetic blast explosion, also pretty important. I did run it for a whole day without it, and it was doable. I was still doing tier 16s, but it's a significant amount of damage to get the helmet gen. So that is this build. That is my strategy. The last thing that we should see is the tree here. Now, I'm still working out what I want to do with the tree. So what I want to explain is that the important parts of this tree really is just that I'm getting alvas, shrines, all of the beyond stuff, all of the shrine stuff, all of the alva stuff, and my altars here, right? Those are the important parts. The extra things that I've thrown in, I do think Flash Breach is absolutely worth it. We get quite a bit of breaches just naturally, and this makes them actually good. However, the one thing I don't think is worth it is my investment into Harbingers. There's a lot of points spent here in Harbingers. These would be better spent in something else. I could get more strongbox stuff here. I think the best outcome would be to get Abyss stuff instead of Harbingers. But this is all, there's some points to play with. You could do whatever you wanted with, whatever the final mechanic you want to put in is. You could definitely come down here and get the Blight stuff, especially this Blight node, incredibly good for Delirium. I just didn't pick it because I don't like stopping for Blights, and I picked Harbingers purely because I like Harbingers. I just like the mechanic. That's why it's in there. It is not the most efficient. You should probably pick something else. But that's it. That's the whole strategy. That's what I'm doing. This build is still getting min-maxed. It might change in the next day or two. Who knows? My profile is public, so do feel free to check that out. See if it's any different from the path of building that's in the description. If you're a day or two late, things might have changed. But super excited. I'm going to keep grinding these maps for a while. My plan now is to farm Crimson Temple until I have a Mage Blood, and then think about what kind of bossing build I want to make. Because my next build, I want to do all the Uber bosses on. So I will also take any suggestions for Mage Blood builds that look really, really good that anyone has seen for Mage Blood bossing builds. Love to see them. Leave them in the description. If you've got any suggestions for me, I want to hear all of them. That is all. I will see everybody tomorrow. No, the day after probably. Goodbye.